everybody. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and today I have with me
Ged Finch. I'm the founder and director of a company called XFrame. We're a prefabricated circular economy framing technology based out of Australia and New Zealand, and we've just entered into the US market.
Okay, I'm curious because I didn't learn this until a few days ago. What is XFrame?
So XFrame's a modular, reconfigurable, demountable wall framing system. So the reason we exist is because there's a lot of waste that comes out of the refit and changing of buildings as their needs and uses change over time. And so we've come up with a wall framing technology that allows you to easily reconfigure and redeploy wall elements, which is really important for eliminating waste, but it also gives people a great deal of flexibility about how they live and occupy the spaces that they use every day.
And from what I saw in the pictures, it kind of looks like, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, interconnected hexagons. And I'm very much going to date myself here. It kind of looks almost like a modern version of Tinker Toys.
Yeah, in some ways, like Lincoln Logs. So the
Yeah.
way we've gone about it is designing a diagrid, so a diagonally braced grid. The reason why that's really effective is because it allows us to vertically modulate. And so from a circular economy or a reusability point of view, we can offer the customers or our users a great deal of flexibility, because if they need to change the height of their wall, they can do that very easily. The reason for the bracing is because it means that the wall panels are always square and true. So no matter what shape or reconfigurable size that the user has made, the frame will always be square. And what that allows us to do is prefabricate, precision cut our linings so that everything is plug and play or clip on, clip off and demountable and precision fabricated. So there's a series of logical steps we've come through based on creating a self-braced frame, and it's made of engineered wood. So Pinus radiata is one of the fastest growing trees in the world. It's a softwood, so it means that it's quickly renewable, made from plantation forestry. We take those plywood, engineered wood products, we mill them into these components. We have about 12 standard components that go into the wall framing system. You can create anything from walls for a load-bearing house down to freestanding internal partitions, expo booths, pretty much anything you want, we can make it. And we can also introduce custom elements into those sets to do bespoke framing requirements, bespoke requirements as people need.
That's another thing I was going to ask. Like I've seen with residential, but how does it scale up? Can you scale it up to say like a office building or a high rise of some sort?
Yeah, so we can do, from a load bearing point of view, we can only do up to 2 stories, and that's because our wall frame maxes out at 6 inches in thickness or 140 millimeters. What we're trying to do is sort of fill the most frequently reconfigured or most frequently changed parts of the building. So in a large high rise, obviously you have a superstructure, whether that's concrete or post-beam timber or steel. That structure is probably going to stay there for at least 100 years, all going well. We'll come in and do the soft fit out or the internal partition walls, which change more often. That's really where we add value.
And besides, presumably for just regular residential housing, you could use this. What are some other things? Like, let's say if there's an emergency and you need stuff that you can put together really quickly and take apart really quickly for whatever reason. Is that where this would apply, or what are some other situations like that?
Yeah, so emergency housing is one, and it's quite an interesting value proposition for emergency housing, because rather than giving people a plastic tent or a plastic framed structure where they may have to throw it out, what we're actually offering is a very quick, instant wall framing technology that then can be used in long-term infrastructure. So things like load-bearing walls of residential buildings, or wrapped up into larger buildings as they happen. So it's really attractive in that capacity. We do quite a lot of bespoke tourist accommodation, or think like luxury Airbnb accommodation, where people want to create quite high performance, architecturally interesting prefabricated structures that may be lifted into remote sites or maybe transported onto islands or all sorts of difficult to access places. XFrame makes a lot of sense because the panels are very lightweight. It's very easy to put together without a lot of tools. We have a lot of retail fit outs, so anything from banking through to sort of pop-up retail, whether that's fashion or jewellery. makes a lot of sense in those spaces as well, because you have, very fast turnover in tenancies. These guys might only be in there for 3 years. In the case of a bank, it's valuable for them because they'll be able to deploy an asset, and if they want to move a branch, they can take those elements with them to the new branch. So the value proposition for people is varied across the spectrum. But the thing we constantly find is that the ability to easily change a wall is really attractive.
Okay, and let's dive a little more into the sustainability. You said it's part of the circular economy because you can take it apart and put it back together again, and it's wood. But what would be more details that make it a sustainable practice?
Yeah, right. So the key thing that we try and do is use locally sourced materials. So Pinus radiata grows right across North and South America. It's grown extensively in Australia and New Zealand. And so we take that material and we will use country of origin or continent of origin materials when and where possible. So that'll be generally in America, that'll be South American source pine, it'll be FSC certified. We'll take that to a local milling operator. So these milling operators generally distributed in state. In New Zealand and Australia, we'll have 2 or 3 partners across the country. They can cut that product using their existing infrastructure. So the nice thing about that is we're not having to invest or build a whole lot of custom machinery to manufacture this product. We then, sort of from a manufacturing point of view, really efficiently take use of the material. So we're up to a 95 to 98% material utilization from the sheet. So there's very little waste at the point of manufacturing. And then as we go through the use cycles, those components can be reused time and time again. So we've demonstrated up to 5 reuse cycles with the product. There's no reason why you couldn't do more. We just haven't tested it.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned the United States. Can you even talk about what these new projects are you're going to be doing in the U.S.?
Yeah, so the US is very interesting because it's the largest timber framed market in the world by a significant margin. So that's, I think, bespoke residential construction is mostly timber framed. And so obviously there's a huge potential to introduce these modular reconfigurable building technologies into that market. But again, the most sort of easily accessible part of the market for us would be the commercial fit outs, retail fit outs, and also trade expo, really short-term infrastructure that needs to be easily reconfigured and updated. And so that's what those first projects are. We went over to NeoCon in Chicago, which is International Office Furniture Convention, and showed off our product and had a lot of interest from a range of people across the industry. The first ones being smaller proof of concept projects that look at trade and expo stands with the idea of scaling it up into larger retail and office projects as we go forward.
Okay, and you mentioned modular. Is this something that you would be able to build off-site and then bring in, or is it easier to do just on-site because of the nature of these sort of portable bits and pieces you're putting together, or is it both?
So it's both, and it really depends on the project needs. So generally what we do to improve the quality of the product, we pre-assemble the panels in factory. So an 8 foot by 4 foot panel, or a 8 foot by 6 foot panel, or whatever you need, we can prefabricate that in the factory and then ship the panel. However, in some cases it makes a lot of sense, and logistically it's easier just to ship the flat packed parts. So if you think an expo stand, or we've just started releasing some internal freestanding office furniture systems, so things like 1 or 2 people meeting rooms, calling pods, Zoom rooms, that sort of stuff. It makes a lot of sense to ship that flat packed because it's quite often in spaces that are difficult to get large objects into. And that is, again, another advantage of the system like this, is that flexibility of structure from smaller elements. So some of our largest pieces are only 4 foot long, but they can make wall sections up to 10 foot high. And so it's that flexibility that gives people the options to pre-assemble or have the components shipped flat pack.
Okay, and if people are interested, and presumably they are, in finding out more about XFrame and how they can either use it or just learn all more about it, where would they go?
Yeah, go to our website, xframesystems.com or xframe.com.au. There you'll find sort of all our range of existing options. We've also done a TED Talk about this idea of demountable reconfigurable spaces and the potential impact that it has in terms of waste. So that's a really good touch point if you want to understand more. We've also got staff on the ground in Colorado and South Australia and in New Zealand. So feel free to reach out directly, and all that info is on the website.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.